Welcome to my brand new video series titled What Makes This Melody Great? Yes, I acknowledge that it's very similar to Rick Beato's What Makes This Song Great, but I didn't want to be clever with the name. It says what it has to say. We're gonna analyze what makes your favorite melodies iconic and memorable, what kinds of note choices and techniques and structures have been used to make beautiful and memorable melodies. So for the first episode, I could have chosen a very popular melody in pop or rock music, but I decided to go with a personal favorite of mine, Octavarium by Dream Theater. The melody that goes on the flute and the string section at the end, it's so beautiful. There's so many good things to analyze in this melody. Dream Theater are known for being like shred guys and very complicated, but John Petrucci, the guitar player in the band, is a very underestimated melodic writer, in my opinion, and we're going to analyze what makes this melody great today. Just before we dive in, if at any point during this video you want to go further with me to learn how to write beautiful melodies on guitar, you should check out my free mini course, Melodic Foundations. You can get it, first link in the description box. It's a mini course to teach you how to write simple melodies using timeless principles. So you can get it, and then let's get started with this lesson. All right, let's start analyzing the first 4 bars. So what I like about the beginning is that we could argue that we start on the first bar F minor, but to me it feels more like a long pickup bar, and when they play it with the string orchestra, there is nothing. You just hear the ta da 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 da, and then the band comes in on the C minor chord. So that's the first tip here. If you want to draw attention to your melody, there's nothing better than having a long pickup line of 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. So this one has 7, right? And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And then landing on the downbeat. So we only have the melody to listen to, so we latch onto it, and then it's much stronger because it started this way, right? So we are in the key of F minor, and the first 4 bars are fully diatonic. We have the root chord F minor, the 5 chord C minor, and the 4 chord B flat minor. So that's a tip right here. If you want to have a melody that sounds melancholic, you can use a minor scale, but you can also rely heavily on the minor chords in your minor key. So they used all 3 minor chords in the key of F minor. And that's why it sounds so melancholic. Not only that, but it's very, very often, very common that we see in a minor key, the 5 chord being a major chord. And it will happen in the rest of this song, but by moving to a note that is really important to the C minor chord and landing there, it really cement it as being, okay, I really have a minor 5 chord, and I'm gonna assume it fully by landing on the minor third of my 5 chord, which is gonna be different at the end, you will see. So what is really strong in the first 4 bars is that it's highlighting the chords very, very well. You will see in this video series, I'm gonna repeat that all the time. The best melodies always highlight the chords. So at first we have, so those are actually the 3 notes of an F minor triad. We have C, F, and A flat. So even if I didn't play the bass note or the chords in the background, I will know that this is highlighting an F minor triad with just 1 passing note, because it's actually an F minor triad. And then we land on the third of the C minor, and then we land on the third of the B flat, and the last one is beautiful. We have So this is what we call an appoggiatura. It's a grace note that falls on the downbeat and eventually resolves to the real note of the chord afterwards. So here the note G is not in my F minor triad, but it eventually resolves to A flat, which is the third of my chord, right? So it's a suspension that is beautiful. You can almost think about it as being a sus2 that resolves to the third. So this is something that makes your melodies very emotional if you add suspensions like these, appoggiaturas. And this one is super tasty in that one. The second set of 4 chords is like this. So you already noticed that on the 4th chord of this 4-chord bar, 4-chord sequence, we have the same thing, right? The little same suspension on top of the F minor chord. But what is really cool is that we have an E flat chord on a bass of G, but I don't hear it as the 7, the flat 7 in the key. I hear it as the 5 chord of the flat 3 chord, especially because of the movement of the bass note. Da, 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 da. It's like we temporarily go to the key of A flat major. And that the melody highlights this chord very well. And then we have another kind of suspension. So instead of a sus2 going to the 3, we have a sus4 resolving down to the 3, to the third of that chord, right? So it's beautiful either way, whether you do 2, 3, or 4, 3 on top of your chord. It's beautiful movements. You can never abuse that. They use a lot in that melody, and it makes it really emotional. So I love that. And then we have an E diminished 7th chord, which is the first chord that is not in our key, right? Usually it's supposed to be an E flat chord or E flat dominant, but we have this chord, which is used to resolve back to the root chord of F minor. So you could say, okay, it's borrowed from harmonic minor, but I would argue that it's actually the 5 chord, right? It's a C chord, a C major chord going to resolve to F minor. So we have 3, flat 7, flat 9, 5, right? And why do I say that? Because on the melody, we are on the C note, which is missing on our E diminished. But since we play that with the melody, I suspect it being a C chord, and we have the confirmation because of the note of the melody, right? So it sounds very tense, but it feels like it's resolving each time to the note of the diminished chord, right? In the same way that we did it here. So like tension, resolution, and then we do that again with the little suspension. So they use that all over the place in this melody. And then the last set of 4 chords, we have a lot of diminished chords again, right? So once again, we use the diminished chords as a 5 chord of something. So this one was the 5 chord of the root chord, F minor. But this one and this one are the same chords, by the way. You can take a diminished 7th chord, and if you move 3 frets up or down, it stays the same chord, but just in an inversion, right? It's just the same chord. I have a full video about that technique right here of diminished chords. But this one is the 5 chord of the 5 chord. So it's like a G chord. altered chord, right? So we have 5, flat 9, 3, flat 7. We just move it elsewhere. And it does resolve to the 5 chord, which is C, that eventually goes to resolve to the F minor chord, right? And we are going to highlight that in the melody, right? It goes to the tritone of that. It follows the diminished chord. And then that is the root note of the C chord. And that is another thing that is fascinating with this melody, is that they are really intentional about what they put on the melody and what they put on the bass, right? So if the root note is on the melody, the third is always going to be on the bass, and vice versa. If the third is on the melody, the bass is going to play the root note in the entire melody, right? So if we go back to the beginning, right? So the melody lands on the third of the chord. So we have the root note at the bottom, right? Then, right? So once again, fundamental position for the chord because we play the third on top, and then 2, 3. So we used only fundamental positions, not inverted positions of the chords, because the melody always was playing the third on top. But then the first time that we play the root on top, right? So that's E flat on my E flat chord. The bass was playing the third of the chord, right? And then we invert the roles again. Now the bass is back to the root and the melody back to the third, right? And then it's a very, very tense chord, but if we say that it's a 5 dominant 7 with a flat 9, that is the root note, and that is the third. And then we have again the third on the melody and the bass right here. And it's the same thing for the last chord. Instead of doing Petrucci knew that if he put a fundamental position of a C chord and a C on the melody, that it would sound empty, right? So instead, he decided to invert the C chord so that it sounded more colorful as a whole, because we played the root on the melody and the third is on the bass, right? So that's something that you need to think about all the times when you write a melody, right? The most amateur melodic writers are always going to put the same note in the melody and at the bass note, right? And that's going to sound empty, right? So that could have been right? It's super empty to have the same note on the melody and the bass note. So trying to put the third and it could have the fifth of the chord or the root or the third and interchange them between the bass note and the top note, and it makes for something super, super beautiful. And like I mentioned before, we use the minor 5 chord at the beginning. And then at the end, we use the major 5. Right? So you can use both in a minor key in the same progression, and you can target notes strategically that are going to highlight the color of each the minor and the major 5. So by landing on the minor third, it really highlighted it really well. And by landing on the major third on the bass note right here, it highlighted the major 5 chord really well. So it's a good thing to highlight these notes in different kind of chord structures, or even chords that are outside the key, and choose the notes strategically to highlight them through your melody. It sounds beautiful and it adds more color and interest into your melody. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that the highest note in your melody usually is reserved for some kind of big climax. So if you want a melody to sound epic, you're gonna not play the highest note first, and you're gonna save it for the climax part, right? And we could have done it here because we don't have the restrictions of the human voice, because the melody was first on the flute and then on the strings or on the orchestra. So we could have a very big range if we wanted. But they did the opposite. They played the highest note first. So that is the highest note we will ever hear in this melody. And then they keep going down. They keep going down, so it has the opposite effect. If you want something to sound melancholic and somber, yes, you can use the minor scale, yes, you can use the minor chords within that key, but you can also have a curve or a contour to your melody that is going down, so that it brings you down, it pulls you down. And that's what they did here, by keeping going down with the melody and not saving some more higher notes for some kind of climax here. So if you want to go further with me and learn more about how to write beautiful melodies on guitar, check out my free mini course, Melodic Foundations. You just have to click on the first link in the description box. It's a mini course of about 45 minutes, and I'm gonna walk you through all the steps and all the things that you need to know to start writing simple but beautiful melodies on guitar. It's a really nice course. You can get it, once again, first link in the description box. It's my gift to you for watching my video until the end. And of course, I would like to know in the comments which melodies should I analyze next in this series. I want to do this as a repeated thing on my channel because I love the melodic side of playing and love really analyzing what makes a melody great in relation to the chords and the harmony. I love it, so tell me in the comment section which melody I should analyze next. Don't forget to grab your free course, first link in the description box, and I'm gonna see you real soon. Until next time, au revoir.